All right. So now what we're going to discuss, the lab 1.1, we're going to discuss web portal introduction, which we have already done it. I'll take you through once. And then we'll perform Active Directory integration with the identity source sequence. Once it is done, we'll perform LDAP integration and identity source sequence. And last but not the least, registration with the self-signed certification in this lecture. Okay, so getting back to the web portal introduction, let me also...
So all these 4 steps you will send, right?
Yes. Let me also access it here. 172.92. I think I should be able to access it here as well. HTTPS. That's it. Yep. I don't have to go again and again there. Admin password CISE3 login up. I believe admin.
So you are going to teach the CXP also, right?
Yes, we'll talk.
Security group tags.
Invalid username and password. Why it is asking this? Okay, it seems working now. That's my mistake. License about to expire. It's okay. The error message is saying that the license warning, as you see here. Why it is license warning? Because when you install the ISE first time, it will have the 60 days of 120 days of evaluation license with the limited access. Once it is over, you won't be able to use ISE. So it's kind of a notification that, okay, boss, that many days you have left and you have to renew it, or you have to purchase the license from the Cisco. All right. So again, and introduction to this home page, right? I'll just give a overview only, so that we should remember where that page is. Operations, any live radius log you want to, or the TechX log you want to, if you want to generate any report related to how many users we have, how many endpoints we have, right? For the troubleshooting as well, if you want to diagnose, or if you want to troubleshoot, you want to download the logs. Maybe you are trying to create, let's say, the user, but user is not getting created and giving error message, right? So you can download the log and then see, you can check it out what's wrong with this. Policies, this tab is normally used for the end user authentication and authorization, right? You can also provision the client. That will again discuss one by one. I guess in this course we will go through the one by one. Guest access, mostly it is used for the WLC when it is connected. Administration, where we have different options. System, so system as in, for example, certificates. So what all certificates you have, I was talking about the certificates that you have to generate. You see here the certificate sign requesting. So just click in it, request generate a signing request and submit it to the CA. CA will approve it, issue the certificate, and you install it. So that's all you can do. Licensing. So whenever we open the main page, you will see, you will get here the sub pages as well, all options, right? So one or more licenses is within 120 days of expiring. Fine, I know. These are the evolution, base, plus, Apex, wired, and device admin. These are the different actually licenses. This is UC for 100, means this is for 100 users. Because when we install this ISE, I gave the 100 user. So it has calculated by default. So ultimately you need the license for 100 users. You will get the serial number, administration node ID, and the product identifier over here, which may, that information may help you to get the license or to obtain the license from this Cisco licensing team. Backup and restore. So you can also take the backup of this to the FTP server, and if it is new installation, you want to restore the backup, that's also possible. So you can also restore the data. So that all will come, the part of lab itself will do one by one. And we have TrustSec that you're talking about, SXP, device administration, identities, user identity group, policy results. We'll do that, right? Next is, again, let's start with this Active Directory integration. So in order to integrate the Active Directory, click on administration page, external identity sources. I have already Active Directory added. Let me delete it. We'll delete. It says referential integrity error. This item is referred to by another object. Do we have LDAP as well? Yep, we have LDAP as well. Let me quickly delete that. Right, so whenever we access the ISE first time, it will give these expected messages. You can say banner, or you can say the notification kind of. It says the Cisco ISE engine can be purchased only through Cisco authorized technology and authorized technology provider. Do not show this message again. I've read it. It's fine. ISE telemetry. Cisco will be collecting telemetry information to better understand ISE usage. That's okay. I've got it. License part also I have got it. And setup assistant wizard. So this is, I mean, if this is the first time, you can also go through this setup assistant wizard. Normally we don't do that, but if you wish, you can go with this. I mean, the basic configuration, the one which we have already configured in the ISE, this through the CLI. I'll say don't ask me again. I don't want to do that. Right. Now continuing to the adding Active Directory to the ISE, external identity sources. This is my new ISE. Click on Active Directory. So we are under the certificate authentication profile. That's the main, but we have to go to the external identity sources and click on Active Directory. So these folders will be by default created. When I hit Active Directory, you will see this page. Here I have to add the Active Directory. So add Active Directory. It will ask for the name. Give any name. I would give, let's say, 81. Active Directory domain name. So what is the domain name that Active Directory has joined? So here, Active Directory, we are using domain name as in champ.com. So going to put champ.com and hit submit. All right, you see the server response 81 has been saved successfully, and it will come like this. So whenever you add any Active Directory, it is asking, would you like to join all ISE nodes to this Active Directory domain? All ISE nodes means you may have 2 ISE nodes, you may have 3 ISE nodes, right? I would, if you want to, do it all together, you can press yes. I don't want to do it. I just want to do it manually. As of now, this Active Directory, this node hasn't joined with the Active Directory. So I'll select it and click on join. It's asking the credential or the AD Active Directory username. That username which we have created in Active Directory, which is the admin, which is having admin rights and can modify with the full control. We'll say administrator and the password.
So this is Active Directory.
Credential, yes, the user which you have created. You can create a separate user for this, for the authentication purpose and all,
So
or
where
I
do we
can use
create
a
the user?
proper one
It
in
it
Active
is it
Directory.
is in the Active Directory. Okay.
Yeah. I will show you. I will show you. Just give me 1 minute. I'll show you how. I mean, what are the pages of Active Directory and the certificate authority and all.
Mm-hmm.
We'll click OK. If everything is fine, if this ISE is synchronized with the NTP server, right? It is going to successful. Otherwise, it will give error message here itself. All right. Trust me, when I did first time long back, it took close to 1 hour to figure it out why it is failing here, right? So as I told you, if it is not synchronized with the NTP, it will give you the failed message here. Though you can review the logs, if that user is not available or if the domain is not reachable, again it is going to give you the error message here. But since everything is set up properly here as of now, I mean, it didn't give any error message. All right. So anyways, ISE2 has been joined, operational, and this is the domain controller, jam.com, right? So this is how we have to add Active Directory integration, or perform Active Directory integration and identity source sequence, right? Identity source sequence, go to the identity source sequence.
What is identity source sequence?
Identity source sequence is for the authentication, means what all authentication you want to add. So for example, as you see here, identity stores, these are the internal user. By default, the authentication method is like internal users, all Active Directory join points. So these are the default. I'll come to the identity source when we add the LDAP. You will understand more when we add some local user to this
Mm-hmm.
and authenticate it.
I'll see.
All right, so that is how we integrate Active Directory. The next is adding LDAP integration and identity source sequence. So in order to add the LDAP integration, again, external identity sources, click on LDAP, nothing is there. Click on add. I'll give any name, maybe LDAP user.
But this LDAP is what this is. This I think you said this LDAP is for as a protocol between Active Directory and ISE, right?
Yes, LDAP is the communication protocol between Active Directory and ISE, between Active Directory or any server. So you can say this, the LDAP works along with the Active Directory.
Okay.
Description, anything.
Okay. What is this LDAP user?
LDAP user is the name of the LDAP that we are going to create. LDAP
Okay.
users, right? Here I have to select along with this LDAP what server you want to use. So these are the default others, like we have Sun Directory server as well as Novel eDirectory, but I have to select here Active Directory.
Okay.
We'll move to the connection, because as of now I haven't told who is Active Directory, what is the IP address,
So
IP
when you
address of
say
Active Directory.
when you say schema is Active Directory, it will pull all the user information
From the Active Directory, yes.
from the Active Directory. Okay.
Yes. Connection, host name or IP. So the host name you have to give the IP address of the Active Directory. So in this case, Active Directory is who? 1.100.96. By default, it is 389. authenticated access. So authenticated access, you have to put the user domain and the username. So here I'm using champ and administrator. So this champ administrator is what? This is the domain of controller or domain name of the Active Directory. Anyways, this is the password credential we added, right? Administrator and then password of Active Directory, isn't it? When we added Active Directory over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? I'll give the password of Active Directory. So the password here it is net champ @123. All right. Normally it will give you the option to test the bind. Yep, it's here. I'll click on test bind. If that IP is reachable, port is open in firewall, you will see bind successful to this IP address at this port number. But if there is something wrong, it will give you the failed message. All right. We'll go to the directory organization. Search a subject search base. So the subject search base is, these are the available options. I want to use common name and the domain controller. So the configuration and the domain controller champ.com, because
Okay.
that's what we have given. For this group search base, I will give only the domain. So domain controller, and my domain controller is champ.com.
So
These are
what
the
does that mean?
different options that you can give, right?
Okay.
But it depends on how you have set it up your Active Directory as well.
Okay. Where does this pull the information from? CN configuration, DC.
Now this configuration is by default. So when you click on naming context,
Okay.
so for example, if I click on naming context, it will give this option.
Okay. Automatically it will generate DC equal to champ and
Yes.
DC equal.
Yep.
Okay.
Just hold on, just give me a moment. All right, so click again, that's already there, so it might not take, and cancel. Click on groups, and that is where you have to download all the groups. Click on add, select groups from the directory, because I have already directory now, isn't it? Click on retrieve groups. So since the bind is successful, I can retrieve all the groups which are created in the Active Directory, right? So these are all the groups that is available in the Active Directory. It has already synchronized, and it has already downloaded it. Select and click OK. So that all the groups will come over here. Updating groups, selection. So you see the configuration, all administrators, account operators. These are anyways the group, not, you won't see any user. Domain guest, domain users, enterprise admins, enterprise read only domain, event log readers. So these are the different actually groups. Select and click on submit. All right, so response LDAP users has been saved successfully, right? So now if I push this, LDAP users has been created over here. Now in order to give let me create the group sequence now. We'll go to the identity source sequence. We'll add identity source sequence for the Active Directory. Let's say AD1 description. for this AD1, what all are you want to select? I want to select whenever the authentication happens. In authentication, it will check first internal endpoints. So for example, internal endpoints, let's say any hardware which is added to the ISE. So if it is not found in internal endpoints, then we'll check in internal users. If that users are not created in Active Directory, because we can create the users, right? In Active Directory, we can create the users in the router, just the way, same way. So if it is not found in internal users, then go for the LDAP, right? Active Directory. If it is not, then try to find out in the LDAP users.
I didn't understand this one. So you mean to say identity source sequence is what exactly it does? It is trying to search what in internal endpoints?
In internal endpoint, something, if anything comes for the authentication. So
Okay,
where
like
all it has
I,
to check, that's what we're giving kind of the selection sequence.
so let's say I come for authentication, right, on the device. So it will like I'm device is a Cisco router, right? I am trying to authenticate on the Cisco router. So it will check whether that Cisco router is available inside the ISE. Is it? That's
Endpoints,
what you said.
yes, yes, correct.
And when you say the Cisco router is available in the as the endpoint, it means the IP address of the Cisco router, etc.
Yes.
Okay.
Take this example. In router, we create. Have you seen configuring AAA in the router?
Okay.
So in AAA, we say that okay, the first authentication method will be radius or TACAC server. But in
Okay.
case radius or TACAC server is unreachable, right? Go for the local database,
Right.
right? The
Right.
same way over here as well. If it is not found if it is not internal endpoints, then I'll check in the user list. If it is not internal user as well, then it might be the external user,
Okay.
right? So in that case, for external user, I will check Active Directory,
Okay.
right? So that sequence it will follow, and at the end it will come. And what if it doesn't find anywhere else, and you haven't selected the guest user as well? So ultimately, authentication will not be happening.
So LDAP users, how that LDAP users is different than Active Directory? It's just a protocol you said, right?
Yes, so this we are creating in anyways in the Active Directory AD1 sequence. So you can remove this probably. You can remove this and make it AD1,
Okay. All right. Understood.
right? And do not access other stores in this sequence and set the authentication status. I would say treat as if the user was not found and processed to the next store in this sequence. These are the stores actually.
Okay.
And click fail to create identity source sequence. Item with this name already exists. All items that can be selected as a result in the authentication policy must have a unique name. All right. So unique name, what it should be. All right. Say since it is Active Directory, I will only configure Active Directory in this. Where it says that it is already
I
added.
think the ADA one, right? Identity source name,
No.
not that one. Identity source sequence name, right?
Sequence name, where this one, 81.
Yeah. You want to change that?
AD user maybe.
Okay.
And there you go. All right. So now this AD user has been added. One identity source sequence I will also add for the LDAP. So we'll click create add, and let's say LDAP underscore users, local users, and same internal users, and in this case I'll say LDAP users if you want to give, and then treat this, submit. So these are the two identity source sequence that I have created. Now I have to give the policy because I have to set it up the authentication as well, right? So we'll go to the policy. As of now, it hasn't been applied anywhere. I just configured it. But have we applied anywhere? Have we enabled authentication for this? No.
No,
It is just
not.
there in the ISE database. So in order to apply it, go to the policy, click authentication, right?
This is a very complex window.
Yes, but it looks like this only. No option. So this is your Mac access bypass. This is .1x authentication, and that's the default.
Okay.
And this is wired 802.1. So what I'll do is for the .1x authentication,
Can you explain this window a bit?
Define the authentication policy by selecting
Not
the
that.
protocols. I'll tell.
The rule.
Which one?
The two rules here, MAB and .1x.
Okay, this is actually the max access bypass. So if you want to use the access or authenticate the access using the MAC address, you can give this max access bypass. And this by default, as you see here, if we click edit, so by default it is wired MAB or the wireless MAB. And for this is a default network access, right? So I'll not change this, let it be same.
So there was a rule, if and use internal endpoints. What does that mean?
I'll come to that. So if I click on .1x authentication, here also you will see wired or the wireless, but here it is for the network access. I want to add here, sorry, not this. Okay, default. I will also add, click here. And for .1x authentication, I want to select what? Let's say AD user. AD, where is that AD?
Second one.
AD users. Is that?
Yeah.
Yep, AD user. And done. So now for this .1x authentication, I have added AD user as well.
So what is the difference between .1x and MAB?
These are the two different authentication policy. Either you can use using the Mac access bypass, or you can use the .1x. We'll do this both the configuration in the CLI. This you have to tell, actually you have to configure in the client switch whether what we want to use. You want to use MAB or you want to use .1x. Right? So you can enable it in the client. And for the LDAP, I'll click here, edit, select.
So on the okay.
Let's say LDAP local users. Select this and done. Now LDAP local users will also be in the default. I have made this in for the default role. If no match.
So you mean to say there is an authentication policy. The user logs in. First, it will check that machine. Let's say the laptop is having the MAC address, whether it's a wired laptop or wireless laptop.
Correct.
When it reaches the access point or the switch, first it will check the MAP policy on the device, and if it is policy is there on the switch, right? Then it will use the internal endpoints. It will talk to this switch will talk in back into the ISE, and it will say if it is MAP policy is configured on the switch, then use the internal endpoints database. So the switch should be inside that specific database, right? and with the MAC address information.
Exactly. Yes, kind of. Yep.
And then if it is not, then go for the .1x uh, authentication, and .1x will take care of
So it
wired
will
wireless.
sequentially, that is where the identity sources are. So these are the sources of our identity. Yes.
Mhm. Okay, I see, understood.
Right. And click on save. All right. So successfully saved. Just for verification, go to the external identities and Active Directory, which is already the part of, we have already joined. We have LDAP users. So that is how we integrate LDAP and identity source sequence. So LDAP, we created LDAP here, right?
Mhm.
And in identity source sequence, I have given the I have created one identity source sequence for LDAP users and given their LDAP users as in the identity. Same
Mhm.
for the Active Directory as well. I've created one identity source sequence for Active Directory and added a AD into that. So it is like mapping both together.
Mhm.
So that is how we perform this integration LDAP and Active Directory. All right. So in order to register with the self-signed certificate, administration, click on certificates. I will click on system certificates. You see here the default self-signed certificate ICE, then issued to ice.champ.com, issued by, so it's honor itself, valid from expansion. I will select it and generate self-signed certificate.
Mhm.
Yep. Now this is the detail which you have to put. So in this case, it is fully qualified domain name. So it is ice2.champ.com. Organizational unit, network is champ. Yep, network is champ. City, let's say Bangalore. State, Karnataka. Country, India. That's not required. Key length 2048. Digest to sign with. These are the SHA as an MD5, or these are the hashing algorithm, either MD5 or SHA. I'm going to use this is for the 2 years, and uses maybe admin. Enabling admin role for this certificate will cause an application server restart. I don't want to restart it. It's okay. And then submit. Any information if it is not. So now this is your self-signed certificate. Though you don't have to generate it, you see here the self-signed certificate, it is already actually generated by default itself, right? Which is the default self-signed certificate, server certificate. Yes, as of now, Active Directory is out of the picture. Okay, I will be assigning self-signing on for in both the eyes each other itself.
Okay.
All right. So in order to, so I am there in ICE2 as of now. Yep, system certificates. Let me download this. We'll say import. Select node ICE2 certificate admin. Oh, sorry, not import. Cancel. certificate, endpoint certificate. Okay, system certificate and export certificate only. So this I'm downloading in from the ISE2. So just remember this. So this I have downloaded ISE2. Will go to the download folder. Where is it? Okay, we'll give a name. We'll change the name of this to, let's say, ISE2. Right. We'll go to ISE1. And same certificates. Admin and say ISE 1, 2, 3. All right. We'll go to the administration certificate. System certificate. Select it, export, and
Import, right?
and should be export.
Okay.
Because we have to download each other, right? So that there I will do import. Again, where is that file? Okay. This one, def name, and this is ISE1. So both the certificate I have downloaded.
Can you go to the notepad which you were showing for 2 seconds for the subjects which are discussed?
Yep.
I'm trying to understand what we are trying to do here.
Okay, so ISE2 certificate, the self-generated signed certificate, I am importing it in ISE1 so that they can join each other.
And what is the purpose of joining each other?
It's joining the cluster, because when we deploy this ISE in a cluster, right, their certificates should be each other. They has to be authenticated to each other. So if that certificate is not there, yes, if certificate is not there, let's say ISE1 certificate, in this case self-generated, is not there in ISE2, they won't be recognizing each other.
Okay.
Right. So in order to recognize, we have to have certificate, the digital certificate. Now, as of now, we are going through the local approach, that is self-generated, self-signed certificate, and the next lab will do with the Active Directory.
Okay. So Active Directory will also generate the certificate.
No, at that time, we will not generate this certificate. We will generate the request of identity, which I will submit to the Active Directory, and Active Directory will issue the digital certificate to me.
Okay.
So these are the two parts.
Okay, no issues. We'll see about Active Directory later.
Okay. Right. So, yep. It has been done.
So you mean to say between the Active Directory and the ISE, or between ISE, there has to be some kind of a communication.
Just give me a minute. I think we get okay.
I'm trying to visualize.
You're getting confused actually with the Active Directory. Why are we using Active Directory here, right? Forget about this. My mistake.
Not this one. Not this one. I'm trying to understand the flow of our course. Can you go to the notepad? From there, I can understand. Try to understand.
This one.
Yeah. So you initially said the Active Directory integration with the identity source sequence. That I understand. Identity source sequence. We talked about MAB and all those authentications.
.1x. Yep.
.1x.
Yep.
And you try to integrate Active Directory with that. LDAP also you try to integrate with identity source sequence.
Correct.
And then registration with self-signed certificate. Okay, this we are doing it because okay, we want to authenticate the both eyes to each other.
Correct.
But by doing this, what exactly, how that will help?
As of now, both the eyes are standalone. Do you agree?
No,
Both
no,
the,
yes.
both the eyes are standalone.
No. That I understood. Both eyes are standalone, and you're trying to issue a certificate to each other for doing the authentication, right?
No, so that they can join together and one can act as in primary and the other can act as in secondary.
Okay, understood. So, how that will help? Okay, how that will help the Active Directory and LDAP integration, which we did in earlier step.
No, so that's what. In this case, in order to perform this task, Active Directory will not help. Active Directory is the side part. In order to integrate up to as of now, in order to register with the self-signed certificate, right? Two eyes together. Active Directory is not. But once we have installed the certificate, then we have to deploy, right? So when we deploy, then we have to give the Active Directory as well, because at the part of deployment, when you create the username and all, right? Since Active Directory is integrated with the ISE, so if anything happens, for example, let's say primary is now, as of now, the primary is connected to the Active Directory and acting as in primary. If the primary is down, the secondary will take over the same charge, right? But time being Active Directory, let's not talk about the Active Directory.
Okay, understood. All right, we'll carry on.
Right. So now what I have to do is, that was a system certificate, right? I have some the trusted certificates as well. These are the default trusted certificates. Endpoint certificates are also there. And again, system certificate. This was the one which we have. It's what I'll do. I'll import over here and import the ISE2 certificate. No, the private key. No, 1 second. Just give me a moment. Yes, ma'am. You fine, fine. Sorry for that. This is your the trusted certificates, right? Which are already installed, as you see here. ISE Node 1 certificate, Service Node CA. These are the different certificates, anyways. And okay, so let's go to the system certificate. And this option is not here. Self-generate, self-signed certificate. Okay. Are we at the correct place? Certificate administration. Certificate file, which is in the download folder. I'll select ISE2 and private key ISE2. Password is not required. I'll select submit. The certificate has a signature that uses the SHA1 hashing and you can see it less secure. It's okay. There is one or more trusted certificate with the same subject name and issuer but having a different serial number. Okay, this I might have done before this lab. Since this is the fresh installation, let me say this. Trusted certificate. Okay. Certificate. And port. Download. Private key file. This was used before. Private key validation failed. Invalid password. Okay. This password is for password of the ISE1 that we have to put here. Private key validation password.
Okay.
I have to see this submit. I'll check it. What's wrong with this? Because this is little old server, so we have done a lot of R&Ds with this. So maybe it is storing somewhere the information. We'll check it out anyways, and let's end this session today itself. Now.
Okay. Sure. So can you send